What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Three View. Today, we are joined by New Mexico Ice Wolves head coach Isaac Washburn. First of all, welcome to the NA3HL and congratulations on your new role.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to talk about the upcoming season and get things going here in New Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely. So this will be your first junior hockey head coaching role. How did you originally discover this position in the New Mexico Ice Wolves program as a whole?
Yeah, I think, kind of what attracted me to the position was just kind of doing some research on the organization. And then you start down into the process and you have some good kind of two-sided conversations. A lot of questions get asked. But it's learning a lot about the organization, who they are, kind of what they're about, and how they do things. I think throughout that process, I get to learn a little bit deeper about the organization and the reputation that they have in the community. And then, talking with the owner, I think one of the best owners in all of hockey, and Stan Hubbard, right? It's not just about making sure that things get done, but that they get done the right way and people are treated well along the way. So I feel really, fortunate and honored to be able to, be trusted in this role.
Yeah, and like you said, this is a huge role for you. You're the second coach ever in franchise history. Coming from Michigan, what has been the biggest kind of difference that you've seen moving to the Southwest and kind of, what has been the biggest challenge for you as you take the reins here in New Mexico?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say that I can really point to like one big thing as far as like an adjustment or, in the transition. Obviously, Darren Banks was here for 3 years, laid a great foundation, had a lot of success, right? So where I'm kind of coming in with it is trying to evaluate, like what's worked and find some opportunities to improve. But really, it's not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? I think at the end of the day, it's important for me to kind of stay true to who I am, not just as a coach, but as a person as well. And that's being authentic and genuine with the players. Kind of as I sit here and reflect on my own journey to get to this place, I think it comes down to, really being true to yourself, having the growth mindset and surrounding yourself with good people, whether that's, a Ron Baum or a Matt Baresh who are, great mentors and have had a great influence on me, not just on the hockey side, but really making sure that you're working to create better people, right? Being able to spend 6 years in Kalamazoo with, Colin Chalk and Nick Bootland, who are now coaching in the American Hockey League. Having the opportunity to coach with the Northern Michigan United program for a few years and work with two of the most dedicated and passionate coaches in Rob Duncan and Matt Hawkins. Last year, being out in New Hampshire, working with two really bright, young, up-and-coming coaches in Alex Ring and Claire Jenkins Kaufman. For me, it's always surrounding yourself with the right people and having that growth mindset and always trying to learn and grow.
And as we look at the history of the Ice Wolves program, they had a huge season last year with their first ever appearance at the Fraser Cup, and they've qualified for the playoffs every year since joining the NA3HL. How do you plan on continuing that success, but also putting your own spin on things and making this program your own?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a big challenge here, right? But where there's big challenge, there's a big opportunity. So I think the bar is already set high, but it's having the communication with the players and letting them know that there's high standards, high expectations. There's definitely going to be bumps in the road along the way. There's going to be peaks and valleys, and when you're in a valley, it's working hard to kind of try and shorten it up. And when you're on a peak, it's realizing that you can't become complacent, right? You're going to have a target on your back, and you need to keep working because at the end of the day, there's really no future in the past, right? Especially here in the South Division, each game matters, so you need to take it one day at a time, one game at a time.
Yeah, and the South Division was a huge battle last year. Obviously, things will look a little bit different with the formation of the Southeast Division. But with that being said, what is your kind of long-term goals for yourself personally, as you look to, like we just touched on, make your own spin on it?
Yeah, I think again, it kind of just comes down to like being authentic to who I am, and really trying to build the culture, right? At the end of the day, I think we need to make sure that we're getting the right players in place, players who are hungry to advance their careers, and they're here for the right reasons, not just coming in trying to check the box and say that they played junior hockey, right? So I think that what we have as a setup here, the facilities, all the support and resources for these players, it kind of has that built-in ladder of development. And it really, like, as far as, players having success here, I think it kind of comes down to them wanting to come in and punch the clock each and every day, work hard in the gym, on the ice, and be around each other, right? I think for me, it's three big things, and it's attitude, effort, and coachability.
And you touch on the development pipeline that the Ice Wolves have in place. Last year, the team had 6 college commitments in addition to 3 NA tenders being signed. How are you going to continue developing players and moving them on to the next level?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to, the two pillars of both development and advancement, right? And getting kids who are hungry, kids who have a desire, and not just a willingness to get outside their comfort zone. Obviously, like, you're not going to get better by staying in your comfort zone. So you need to be able to push yourself and allow yourself to push others, right? So it's a twofold thing. But the resources that we have here and all the support pieces are, second to none.
And going off of that, obviously you can see behind you, you have the quite the setup here. With the NA team also being in the same building, being around your players on a day-to-day basis, how huge is that for the NA3HL players to kind of see the day-to-day actions of the players on the NA team?
Absolutely. I think to have that in-house progression in front of these guys to where each and every day they can look down the hallway and see what it is at that next level, right? To have that right in front of them is really important for us. On my side of things, it's having daily communications and sit downs with the NAHL coaching staff, right? So every morning it's sitting down and we're talking about players, we're talking about systems, talking about culture, just making sure that we're both on the same page. And I'm doing what is asked of them at the higher level, right? So I think for me, it's the way that I kind of try to approach my coaching is not necessarily coaching players for where they're at, but more so where they want to be at. I think that life comes down to timing and opportunities. You never quite know when the opportunity is going to come or how many you're going to get. So you need to be ready, right? So for me, it's building the daily habits and disciplines, both on the ice, off the ice, making sure that these players are checking all the boxes, both on the athletic side, making sure they're taking care of things academically, on the social side. So that way they have a marketable and translatable game and character to be pursued at the higher levels.
And obviously, you said yourself it's going to be super important to have sit downs with NA coach Kyle McKenzie. And then obviously, you have Alex Gilbert on staff, who has been with the Ice Wolves for quite some time now. How have you been able to kind of communicate with them already to plan out a vision of how you see this upcoming year going?
Yeah, I think it's just, having open, transparent conversations, again, kind of taking their thoughts. And it's just having that open dialogue. And that started from day one. I got hired at the end of May, and the last 2.5 months have been an absolute whirlwind. I think I've been in and out of New Mexico 3 or 4 different times, but I finally kind of settled in here. But getting down here prior to main camp and starting to build the relationships and the communication was really important for me.
And as we kind of wrap things up here, the season is quickly approaching. We're, just under a month away here at the time of this recording. What is your biggest goal for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think it's continuing the tradition and the track record of both developing and advancing players, right? And that comes down to getting the right players here. And then we're going to push them. They need to be, willing to be pushed. But at the end of the day, I think that as long as we're, continuing to focus on both development and advancement, I think that the results on the scoreboard and then the standings are going to take care of themselves. For us, it's going to be playing with purpose, pace, and passion, and getting out in the community, right? Because I think that at the end of the day, in a non-traditional market here, we need to represent the organization well and be involved in the community.
All right, well, awesome. We're super excited to see what you do in year one, and good luck.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Britt.